Welcome into our next leg in our race around the world here at the Pitstop Pals, part of the Reality Realm podcast network. I am one of your hosts, Kevin Oliver.
And I might be the other host. My name is Bruce Heller.
Yeah, we're currently taking applications to decide.
You know what? That's fair.
And we are here to talk about the Amazing Race Season 37, Episode 7. B1 with the hay. And once again, I missed who said that line. Do you happen to know?
No,
Okay. Um, but I will say this episode gave us plenty of content for quotes and stuff. I don't know if you agree, but I have a lot of stuff. Do you have anything?
I have a few. Yeah, I was I was focused on the episode, but I didn't have my notes app open the whole time because I was. This was right after
Disc.
a controversial amongst the fandom Survivor episode, so I was kind of reading Twitter during commercial breaks,
How dare you?
just seeing what people different said and defending production against people accusing them of rigging an immunity idol for someone, but not
For
idol
the
advantage,
record,
but
for the record, I agree with you that it was not rigged for a specific person,
yes.
but I would argue that it's still rigged. Rigged
It's
for the winner.
if we want to debate the merits of having it as a reward, I'll listen to that. I really don't have a strong preference either side of that argument. But there seemed, you may have seen it, may not have seen it. There seemed to be a lot of people that thought they specifically set it up for only Eva to find. That
Well,
was
they did,
that was
but it
part
was
of the
because she
challenge
was the
rule.
winner.
It's not like anyone could have found it, but they put it directly in front of her. That was only for her to find. Was kind of my point. But the optics aren't great either way, to be honest.
For
But
sure.
so that Survivor is why I don't have as many quotes as you probably do. But which one is Melinda and which one's Erica, by the way?
Melinda's the mom.
Okay, so this quote is from Erica, and I wrote it down because I just really relate to this. And she says, I'm not of a generation that has ever used a paper map. Give me a phone or a GPS, and I can get you anywhere. And that's me, absolutely. I have, I believe, Jack and Carson saying, might have been Brett or Mark saying that was very Doja Cat Coachella.
I have that written down, so I'll verify who that was when I get
And
to.
I have the Philiminator.
Yeah. Okay. Buckle in because I got quite a few. That was all yours, right? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. I got quite a few here. We have Josiah, who always has some good quotes. Sofia, Bulgaria. I'm pretty sure that's a famous person. Person's full name. Or if it's not, it should be. Oh crap, that's Sofia Vergara.
Nice.
Um,
Modern Family.
yes.
Great show.
He next one's also Josiah. My family has carried lots of fruit, so I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Coming back with the dad jokes.
Nice.
Um, we have Anna. I'm reminded of the book of Where the Wild Things Are when those weird buffalo looking monster things were running around.
Yeah.
Um, Brett said that was very Doja Cat at Coachella of
It was Brett and
it
Mark.
was Brett.
Okay.
Um, this one's not a funny quote, but it's a quote that backs up my whole we're not going to excuse Jonathan for the things he says, but we understand why. But this was another one of those things that I was just like, this is not a good look, buddy. I think this is a bad call on your part. Emphasized your part, blaming Anna
Yeah.
in a team competition. Um,
Using that with you now, by the way.
what?
I'm gonna use that line on you at some point. I don't know when, but
I'm sure you will. Probably the next time we go to Chicago.
if we get stuck in traffic or something, this was a bad call on your part, Kevin.
Yeah. He also said you lost the lead for us.
Oh, I missed that one.
Yeah. Um,
I feel like even he's looking back at this and realizing how it comes off, though.
he is, and he's that's the whole reason that he went and got that diagnosis. Like that they seeked out help for because afterwards they realized how off-putting he was acting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, you're so cool, Holden. I just kind of chuckled when Holden did something and Han just says, "You're so cool, Holden."
I love their like sibling dynamic. It's so funny.
And then John once again he says, "I can't win, not we can't win. I can't win." Okay, this is a quote from me. I quoted myself in my
Oh
note.
boy.
I stan Novinka Oshakiva, the 102-year-old lady that's
Oh,
singing,
the yogurt
and
lady.
also I thought that when Phil was introducing this challenge, he said Bulgarian yoga
Huh.
and not Bulgarian yogurt.
I want to do goat yoga.
I don't.
But baby goats.
Yes, they're cute, but I don't want them standing on me.
I kind of do, honestly.
I'll go for it then. We have I'm in Bulgaria milking a sheep on a farm, and we're in first place
Huh.
from
Nice.
Alyssa. Mike says, like Popeye eating his spinach, I did my 2 puffs and here we go of his inhaler.
Yeah.
We kind of do this in Philadelphia, but instead of sheep, it's a keg, and instead of milk, it's beer. That was Josiah.
Yeah, that's on brand.
Alyssa referred to that lady who I stan as the 102-year-old grandmother of the farm.
Yeah, that's what she is.
She birthed the parents of the farm.
Yes.
She's yeah, the farm itself is a descendant of the 102-year-old lady.
We are all descendants of the 102-year-old lady.
Okay, this was a Brett quote. My desire in life, or my desire is to pass away from this life without ever having touched an udder. That was a Mark quote, not a Brett quote.
Oh, yeah.
Mark. Nick and Mike had a good like philosophy quote. Focus on what we can control in the race and forget the rest.
Yeah,
I
that's
like.
smart.
Following up on Mark's desire in life, what I learned is I don't have a problem milking something. I really or I thought I always would. It
Hmm,
was I don't have a problem milking something. I thought I always would.
that's funny.
Not really a thought that's ever come through my mind. However, I would or would not enjoy milking something.
There's only one way to find out.
That's true. Han made a comment. I understand, but I'm annoyed
Yeah.
about the U-turn. And that is, I put that I appreciate that perspective
Mm-hmm.
because unlike people who are going to sit there and blame other people and talk about how wronged they were.
That it felt like their kids voting them out.
Yeah, yeah. I understand, but I'm annoyed. I think that's valid.
Yeah, it
Like,
is.
I get why you did it, but I don't have to like it.
Yeah.
Um, che cheers, Grandma, as Anna eats the goat yogurt.
Yeah.
Holden, I didn't know which direction the squirt hole was coming.
Heh, nice.
and Han saying he's all milked because he had milk all over him.
Words of wisdom.
And then Holden, looking for the grandma, says, "Where is your 102-year-old mother?"
Hmm.
My mom made a comment about Holden with the yogurt all over his face
Yeah.
and said, "He looks like he's foaming at the mouth." So I quoted myself and my mother in this.
Nice.
And then the final one, City Boy can't hang on the farm. That was Nick on elimination.
That's fantastic.
Sorry, that was all of my quotes. Like I said, this was a very quotable episode.
Yeah. It was very fun.
Mhm. So let's dive right in here. We find out that we're going to have to fly more than 2,000 miles to Bulgaria,
Yeah.
uh, which is the only country in Europe to never change its name. And I believe this is the first time in Amazing Race history that we go to Bulgaria.
Oh, that's interesting.
Hmm. We find out that there's going to be another double U-turn.
It's not a
And
public vote this time.
correct, just a normal one. And we find out that this is going to be the first self-drive of the season,
Nice.
which I would not be good at.
Mm-hmm. Same.
So you learn how to drive a stick.
No, you.
No, because I'm better with a map, I think, than you would be.
Well, that's fair.
Yes. I'm the king of navigation. And they have to go they're going to Sofia, Bulgaria, not Sofia Vergara, and drive to the village square of Negwashevo. Um and there was some interesting driving struggles here in this parking garage
There was. It was really funny.
where Holden like backed into Brett and Mark. And Han couldn't figure out how to reverse. And uh, Brett and Mark it was, offered to show them how to reverse as long as they let Brett and Mark go before them. Which they did, and we went off. And we see another one of these challenges that are two people doing a challenge and they don't have a choice. Which it seemed like just something that we haven't seen a lot in the race. It usually seems like we get a roadblock and a detour and some travel in an episode. But last week they did the thing with the pastries, and this week we see them do this Kukari offering where they had to gather apples and deliver them to the altar of Kukari. And Kukari is this like buffalo monster looking thing, like he came right out of where the wild things are.
Nice.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I've read Where the Wild Things Are a couple times as a kid, but not recently. But I
So
can like picture the cover in my head.
okay, that's basically all I needed to know that you could like see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it seemed like a pretty like simple challenge, but it was just a time consuming thing. What did you think of the Kukari offering challenge?
Is this the thing with the apple crates?
Yeah,
It was fun to watch. I like apples.
yeah.
Apple juice, apple sauce, fried apples, cinnamon apples.
I don't like applesauce.
I like some of them.
I think it's the texture thing for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I didn't really have a whole lot of notes. Just a few quotes that I already talked about from this section. But once they finished that, they had to go to Ositswa village uh, for their next clue, and and that's where they got their detour clue,
Nice.
where they had to do a haystack or wood stack. And do you want to explain what you do with those two challenges?
Yeah, so I definitely don't want to do the hay one, by the way.
I agree. I totally agree.
That looks like it comes from the devil himself,
Well, keep
from
in mind
my specific skill set.
this is the third time in Amazing Race history that a team has been eliminated on a haystack challenge.
And the way haystack works is there's these giant stacks of hay, of course,
Yeah, and in each
and you there's this little piece of yarn basically somewhere in it that you have to find.
yeah, in each group, um, I found out after the fact because everybody was asking why didn't Nick and Mike go to more than the three? Each group only gets three haystacks that they can search from, and they were color coded, like with a ribbon or something, and so they only had the opportunity to search through three haystacks to try to find it.
And the stacks are so big, and the piece of yarn is like this long.
Yes,
It's
but it is red and white, not the color of
still. And the other one, you're stacking and delivering firewood to a local house. They,
200, 200 kilograms of firewood,
yeah.
which is the equivalent of 440 pounds.
It's a lot.
It is. And so, starting out here, we have a haystack with Jonathan and Anna, Alyssa and Josiah, Melinda and Erica, Carson and Jack all chose haystack from the get-go. Um, Woodstack was Brett and Mark, Han and Holden, and Nick and Mike. Keep in mind, the double U-turn came after that, so there were a couple teams that had to do both. We also have Carson and Jack who switched, and then Nick and Mike and Han and Holden who had to do both challenges.
This is like the worst one to get the U-turn on, though.
Yeah,
They both stink.
Carson and Jack get lost really bad.
Oh yeah, they did. That's a big.
Uh, yeah,
Jonathan and Anna end up with their car in a ditch at some point,
yes, they do. But Carson and Jack, they end up being 3 hours behind by the time they get to anything.
and they still don't aren't the team that's eliminated.
I know they got very lucky. Anyway, I just noted that I saw a random goat walking through the streets of Bulgaria in this episode.
Nice.
I wish we had random goats walking through the streets of Illinois.
India has that with cows,
India worships their cows, though.
but they're still just randomly walking around.
Yeah.
It'd be cool to just, be out somewhere and see a cow walking by.
So this is the part where Jonathan and Anna wanted to do the haystack, right? And this is when Jonathan was saying this stuff. I think it's a bad call on your part, and you lost the lead for us, and I can't win. I mean, it's he is not having it with this haystack challenge. They got there first. They left in third. It wasn't that huge of a deal, but they did get past because Josiah and Alyssa found this uh, adornment in the haystack so fast.
Yeah.
Um, and they had to go to Sime Church, where that's where the U-turn there was, as well as their next clue. And Josiah and Alyssa choose to U-turn nobody.
Mm-hmm.
And I find out that they have to go to Nesky's farm for their next clue. Jonathan and Anna, they also U-turn no one. But Jonathan's car got stuck in the mud and they couldn't get it out.
Even after very much help from a lot of different people.
Yes, Brett and Mark, they U-turn no one and get their clue, and then they stop and try to help Jonathan and Anna, but they realize they cannot be there forever and jeopardize their race. So eventually they leave once they realize that they are not going to be very successful. There was all kinds of people in from Bulgaria who were trying to um, help help out Jonathan and Anna here. Um, they were like putting sticks under their car and trying to help them gain traction and all this stuff. Finally, some guy came along with a tow strap and pulled them out back onto the road, and it all worked out.
Yeah.
Here's a quote that I forgot to mark down as a quote from Han during the Woodstack Challenge. My forearms will double in size by tomorrow.
Hmm.
Also, in the haystack challenge, Erica found a dead gecko in the hay.
Wow. That's freaky.
Mm-hmm.
Better to, better to find a dead gecko than a dead human.
That's true. I'd be really concerned.
So would CBS, I imagine.
I imagine so. So then, for the people who got to the U-turn and got their next clue, roadblock. Who's ready to fill her up? Do you want to explain what that means?
Milk a sheep until you have half a liter, and then you eat a full bowl of Bulgarian yogurt.
Yes. And the people who did the roadblock were Alyssa, Mark, Anna, Holden, Melinda, and Carson. Nobody from Nick and Mike because they never got that far. Um,
Man, we were off base with them on the cast
oh,
prediction.
I know. They were my number one pick. And this part is where I got a lot of quotes from, like um, Mark being afraid of milking anything, and uh, the quote about the keg and beer and sheep and milk from Josiah. Um, but I don't have a lot of like from in action quotes yet because Alyssa did this fairly fast and finds out that they're now going to the pit stop, which is Elin Pilin. And Alyssa and Jack are on their way to the pit stop here, while Carson and Jack are
Oh,
just
you
getting.
just said Alyssa and Jack.
Oh, sorry. I was Alyssa and Josiah are on their way to the pit stop, while Carson and Jack are just getting to the apples.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, it was like a huge separation there. And then we go back to the Woodstack challenge where Nick and Mike have to make an extra trip because they were 1 kilogram away from having all their wood.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so they get that back, and it's Nick and Mike and Melinda and Erica, and they're racing to the U-turn. And Melinda and Erica don't know about Carson and Jack being lost, and for some reason they didn't realize that Han and Holden had not finished yet either. And so they thought that they were in second to last.
Yeah.
And so they U-turned Nick and Mike, thinking that they needed to cushion themselves or they were going to go home. And then they opened up the clue box and realized there were 3 more clues in there and that they screwed up and felt so bad for it.
Yeah.
So Nick and Mike, seeing their name U-turned, they U-turn Han and Holden because that's the only team they know for sure is behind them, and they don't want to be back here by themselves and have no chance. And so I don't think that this was a bad move from Lyndon Erica,
No, I don't either.
but I do feel bad for Nick and Mike because, like, if Melinda and Erica just knew, they wouldn't have done it at all. And Nick
Yeah,
and Mike would still be here,
yeah,
and Carson and Jack would be gone.
yeah. I agree. It's unfortunate, but based on the information they thought they had, it's not a bad move.
I completely agree. Also, Anna named her goat that she was milk or sheep that she was milking.
I love that.
She named it Maggie, and she was talking to it while she was milking it.
That's so great.
Hmm. I love Anna, by the way. I'm still not a huge fan of Jonathan, but I love Anna. She's awesome. Um, wow, I completely skipped over. Oh, there it is. Nope, it's right under there. Okay. And then, right after Anna talks to Maggie the sheep, Josiah and Alyssa come in as team number one and win a trip to Morocco, a 5 day uh, excursion that includes a 3 day tour of the Saharan Desert.
Yeah, that looks awesome.
Looks like a really cool trip. Um, Brett and Mark, they finished in second. Jonathan and Anna finished in third. Melinda and Erica went in the wrong direction after leaving the U-turn, and so they were a little later getting to the farm.
Yeah.
There was one point here where Nick and Mike didn't know that Carson and Jack were behind them, and they thought about taking the penalty. Um, if they would have honestly taken the penalty like 2 hours earlier, they might have still had a chance. I don't
Yeah.
know. But then they see that Carson and Jack show up at the detour, and so they realize they gotta work here, and they still never get it. And Jack is being a baby about the wood stack. Did you notice that?
A little bit, yeah.
He was like, the wheelbarrow hurts my back and the backpack. I
Good
don't know.
impression.
I didn't hear complaining out of people who arguably should have been complaining before Jack was.
Yeah.
But anyway, Han and Holden, they finished team number four. Melinda and Erica five. Carson and Jack, they didn't even show us the second half of Carson and Jack's race. They
By the
just
way, Han and
what?
Holden finishing ahead of Melinda and Erica is just wild if you think about it.
Right, because they had the
They were
U-turn.
already behind Melinda and Erica. Then they got U-turned and had to go back and do a. Both of those challenges look awful, by the way. I would not
Completely
feel
agree.
great about, but somehow still finished ahead of them. It's
It's because Melinda and Erica got lost on their way to the sheep farm.
yeah, but that's wild.
Yeah, for sure. Carson and Jack finished sixth. We don't see them really milk the sheep or anything. They kind of just fast forwarded through it all. And then the Eliminator comes out to um, see Nick and Mike because they've been in the hayfield for 6 hours.
Oh my gosh.
And Nick and Mike have been eliminated.
I always feel bad for people when Phil has to go to the challenge to eliminate them. It's somewhat common, but still.
I never thought about this before, but we can't say Nick and Mike were the seventh team here. They never finished the leg. So instead of writing Team 7 eliminated, it's just Nick and Mike. you have been eliminated.
Yeah.
So they never finished the leg.
Yeah. Just
Because
have
he, like he always says, like, who was Pops and Jeff, you are the eighth team to arrive, and you've been eliminated. And I'm sorry to say
yeah.
you've been eliminated. This time it was just Nick and Mike. I'm sorry to say you have been eliminated. And
Yeah.
I've never thought about that before, but it's like, it's kind of
Imagine if it had been an NEL and they would have had to wait for them to get to the pit stop eventually.
I think they'd still be there the next day at this point. No, eventually they would just take a penalty, right?
I mean, probably, but at that point you have such a big gap. Then you have to do the NEL challenge in the next leg. That'd be wild.
Right.
I still wish they would bring NELs back, though. I miss them.
I almost wonder if even if this was supposed to be an NEL, I bet that they would have pushed the NEL back.
I don't think it was supposed to be. I think they're
No,
dead.
I don't think it was either. I mean, if this would have been,
Yeah. Or
just a production speculation.
or if it had been a mega leg, which is just an NEL with a different name because they do two straight legs in the same area. But
Right.
am I off base on that? Is a mega leg just kind of an NEL with a different name? It feels like it.
And they don't really get a break, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
So like normally, they get their 12-hour rest period,
Yeah,
but when it's a mega leg,
that's fair.
and you're still racing, here's your next clue.
Put haystack on the mega leg next time they do it.
That sounds really like a bad idea.
And then on the second episode of the mega leg, have the wood stacks. Don't have it either or. Have them both.
Make them do both.
Yes.
And these are roadblocks, so only one person gets to do them.
Okay. I'm not gonna be that mean with it. I just want to see how long they'd have to wait if this was either like a non-elimination leg or the first episode of a mega leg. Where
Bro,
Phil couldn't just
you
go
are
get
like you are like production's worst nightmare.
them. Okay, just for this one reason though.
No, because I think back to you're also Survivor Productions' worst nightmare.
I was defending Survivor production this week.
Right, but usually you're like, let's have 13-hour challenges again. And that just doesn't fit into the 26-day game. And you still want to see it.
I do, but
But you never think about it from production's viewpoint.
it's not my job. That's their job.
That's why I said you are production's worst nightmare.
I'm the ideas person. They're not all good ideas.
Amen.
Like with Amazing Race, I said I jokingly said give award a save every episode.
Yeah, that's a terrible idea.
Oh, I knew it when I said it, but it's funny to think about.
By the way, um, next time on, we are still in Bulgaria,
Oh, interesting.
and we get another express pass.
Also, another good idea I've had that isn't a production nightmare thing with Survivor was only having one immunity for the split tribal episode.
I wouldn't have a big problem with that, but I'm not sure about it either.
I really don't have a problem with the split tribal other than that we merge and then immediately split them up again. That just feels weird, but
I agree with that.
I don't know. I just think a tribal where having one tribal where everyone is available to be voted for would be a fun little brand of chaos.
What was the tribal last night or on Wednesday?
Well, there was still an immunity. Sometimes not having an immunity would make a difference, sometimes it wouldn't.
But what I'm saying is, still, everybody but one person was available to be voted for.
Yeah, but if
Which,
it's a smaller group and you don't have that one person, it causes opportunity for a little bit more.
that's called the pre-merge.
Well, oh well, it's a good idea, and it Helps my
It's already,
chances.
it sounds like what you're saying is already implemented in Survivor. A small group where everybody is available, that is called the first
Yes,
5 episodes of Survivor.
yes, but later in the game. I don't know. It's a good idea, and it's not. It helps my argument that I might not be production's worst nightmare.
I still think you are.
I still think I am too, because I want to see the haystack challenge on a non-elimination or a mega leg, just so they have to
This
wait
is why
for
you're never
it.
going to work for CBS.
Well, I was never gonna work for them anyway, so and it's not like they probably listen to this show.
Right.
Unlike the executives at PepsiCo and the Mountain Dew division that I still
Yeah.
deal with
I'm
more.
sure they listen to all of the reality realm content.
We've talked about them enough, so maybe word's gotten back to them.
We talked about the Survivor and Amazing Race executives every week.
Well, they're busy.
And PepsiCo's not?
Well, I want free Mountain Dew swag. I want free soda. I want one of those little Mountain Dew mini fridges.
Then buy one.
Well, no.
That's what I thought. You don't want it you don't want it bad enough then.
I want it for free.
Again, you don't want it bad enough then.
Free stuff is cool.
I don't disagree.
There we go. We agree.
Okay. Are you ready to go into power rankings?
Yes.
We have 6 teams on the board. Who do you have at sixth place?
Before we get to my sixth place, I have Pops and Jeff in seventh.
I mean, okay.
I just had to throw something quirky in there. I felt like it. Shout out to them, our favorite lumberjacks.
Yeah.
In sixth, I'm gonna go with Melinda and Erica here, honestly.
Okay. Do you want to elaborate?
I think all the other teams are better. They're not bad, but they're just usually they're kind of doing the Amy and Maya thing where they're not impressive really, and they're middle to back of the pack every week, but they keep surviving.
Yeah. I would not disagree with that either. I think that they feel really Amy and Maya like.
Which again, Amy and Maya ended up winning that season, but like until the final episode, I was really never super impressed with them. So
Right. And I also put Melinda and Erica here.
nice.
Um, for pretty much the same reasons. I think they are inherently the worst team left, but that does not always mean that the worst team is going to be the team that goes home.
Yeah.
So,
If Jack and Carson don't learn how to navigate, they'll be in trouble.
yeah, for sure. Who you got in fifth?
In fifth place, I have. Are you ready?
I was born ready.
I'm gonna go with Jack and Carson here because
Whoa.
there's such a huge like they're gonna have a big gap to have to catch up between them and the people in front of them. If they
Okay.
if they survive next week, they'll probably shoot right back up to the top three. But like between them and because they leave based on finish time, don't they?
Yep.
So they'll have to make up like a couple hour gap. And I think they can and will, but they've got an uphill climb here. And they're a strong team. It's just at this point, there's a lot of strong teams left.
So my fifth place, I still think that like they're impressing me more and more every week. But and they are followers of the pod. Um,
And
Han
commenters
Holden.
constantly, if it's who I think it is.
What?
And if it's who I think it is, commenters constantly.
Yes, Han and Holden.
Yeah.
Um, I just I don't know. I don't think that they're as strong as some of these other teams. For some reason, I'm getting end game vibes from them though. So, but this isn't a who I think is going to be in the end. This is a where am I ranking them based on what's going on right now? So this is where they land. But I really am getting end game vibes from them.
Nice.
Who do you have in fourth?
Hahn and Holden, for a lot of the reasons you said. They've been getting a lot better lately. And but I think the three teams ahead of them are better. I think Jack and Carson overall have a better body of work than them. But that couple hour gap scares me. So I'm putting them at 4 and Jack and Carson at 5.
That's
But
fair. My number four is actually John and Anna. Jonathan and Anna. And um, they've rose a little bit for me from where they were last week. I think I had them in fifth last week. Um, but I really, truly believe that the three teams I have higher than them are all better than them.
yeah,
And so this is where I put them. I don't think they're going to go home next time. I'm no longer sold on them making the end game. But we'll see.
yeah,
Who do you have in three?
Jonathan and Anna.
Okay.
Other than Jack and Carson, we seem to be pretty similar again. And again, that's not them. That's just I'm scared for them next week. If they survive next week, they'll shoot right back up to the top 3 probably.
hmm My
Jonathan and
third,
Anna, I still think they'll make the finale, but they don't seem like the clear no. Last week and this week they're not like the clear best team they were the first couple of weeks.
my third place is Carson and Jack.
Yeah,
I know that this week their navigation is seeming to be their low point, but when we're talking about the actual challenges that they did, I think from what we saw, they still excel. And so I still think they're a top three team. Who do you have at two?
I have Brett and Mark.
Okay.
They've been really good.
Yeah, I also have Brett and Mark at two. Um, they've been they've been quietly consistent, I feel. And that means that our number ones are the same.
Yes, and I meant to type Alyssa and Josiah, and what I typed was Jolissa and Josiah. I think I was going to type Josiah and Alyssa, then I went to do something, and I came back and I typed the Joe, and then I started typing Lissa and Josiah. But
They are my hey, I see it. They are my favorite team left in this race.
nice.
I don't know who you like the most.
I kind of like Han and Holden because they keep interacting with our social content, honestly. And
That's
the
fair.
dynamic is fun. There's not really anyone I don't like, which I appreciate. I don't like when there's teams I don't like.
hmm Before we wrap up here, we're getting into the end game here. I want to know who you think the three teams that make the finale are going to be.
It's funny you say this. I was about to ask you this because I did a lot of monologuing about who might be in the finale when I was stalling while you were on the phone last week. So I was going to ask you this anyway.
Well, I asked you first, so give me your answer.
I've already answered it. You should go first, and I'll re-answer.
I literally asked first, so
Yeah,
go.
but you bailed on me while I was answering it last week.
But I was not part of that conversation, so go. I have no
Oh,
idea what you said.
whatever. Okay, I'm doing it, you big baby. So annoying sometimes.
What?
Everything has to be your way. Um, I do think Brett and Mark, Jonathan and Anna, and then the third spot, I could see it being Han and Holden. I could see it being Jack and Carson. I could see that being a few people.
But who are you gonna stick with?
I'm not making a firm prediction yet. That's kind of
Do
my
it. We're
analysis
down
right
to the final six. That's what I was asking. I want a firm prediction, and it can
now.
change next week. But what are you going
No,
for right
I've given my analysis. Go.
now? Okay. I say that Alyssa and Josiah are my lock. I say Carson and Jack and Han and Holden.
Nice.
See, it's not that hard.
Oh well, I didn't want to.
So, this was a fun episode.
Yeah, it was.
Make sure, guys, that you check us out on our socials, Facebook, Instagram, Reality Realm, TikTok. Check out our other Reality Realm coverage here of Survivor on the Tribal Council chat. Um, check out New Generation Challenge podcast. I think they just dropped another episode for the finale. Did they, Brett, Bruce? Is that true?
Do what?
Didn't Next Generation Challenge podcast just drop a new episode for the finale?
I think so.
I
Yeah.
think so. Um, Traders coverage. We will be doing some off-season stuff here in a couple months. And other than that, check out our Redbubble merch store, um, where you can find everything from t-shirts to wall clocks.
Nice.
And what?
Nice.
Yes, sir. And with all of that being said, the world is waiting for you. Good luck.
Travel safe.
Oh.
Go.